I'm Stephanie Woods. I'm the singing bowl lady. Yay! And tonight's theme is love, love in bloom. Being in love, expressing love. But unfortunately, there are some that can't respond to that emotion due to perhaps a learning disability. They're unable to respond in a way that perhaps we find appropriate. So I'm just going to speak a little bit tonight about love and the ear and responses to things that we hear. There was a previous Energy Theater about a year ago, and we were having rehearsal in this space. And a woman came in with a little girl, and Walter usually had his laughter club at that particular time, so they came in looking for Walter's laughter club. But it was a schedule change they weren't aware of, so Walter greeted them, and as I was just sitting by at a table waiting for my time to get up and rehearse, he suggested that the little girl might be interested in playing the bowls a little bit, or just learning a little bit more about them. It was fine, so she sat down in the chair, and I showed her which mallet to use, and she struck the bowl. You could see her lean into it, and her mouth open just a little bit, and she was just really taken with the tone. She was very quiet. So she did that for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then they had to leave, because obviously what they came for wasn't happening, so they went on their way. And we went on with our rehearsal, and that was that. Well, a couple of weeks later, I got a phone call. It was from the woman that had come in with the little girl. Now, I did not know these people, just through when they came in here. And she said, you know, I have to call you and tell you something interesting. She gave me a little background on the little girl. She was probably around 9 or 10 years old. She'd been adopted as a young child from another country. Her parents had been unable to care for her. And she came to this country, of course, and was having developmental problems and had been diagnosed with having autistic tendencies. Now, this exhibited itself as she was very impatient, very negative. I hate my family, I hate my mother, I hate my brother, I hate my sister, I hate school, I hate everything. And just could not get herself, nobody could get her to be positive about anything, especially herself. When they would go out, on the weekends, her babysitter would come, and they would spend the day together, and they'd go run errands, and it was always an ordeal, because she was very impatient. I want to get out of here, I don't want to wait. This very negative energy. The babysitter had given her a journal. Perhaps you can express yourself through writing. It's not a verbal thing, you know, it's a personal thing, but never more than a couple of words were written in the journal. Now, this wasn't working. She said after we left, and she just tapped that bowl a couple of times, she said we went on our errands, I was like, you know, cross your fingers, let's get out of this. And the little girl waited patiently. She was humming. And she was actually saying, I love my mother. I love my sister. I love my school. Okay. They went along and did other errands. The day went by very smoothly. She got home, she got out her journal, and wrote 7 pages.
Wow.
So something about what she heard that day for just a couple of minutes unlocked something in her, and she was able to express herself. Now, what I found out since is that people with learning disabilities, specifically ADD, ADHD, which are forms of autism to a certain degree, they have auditory perception problems. Now, they can hear, but they don't always make sense of what they hear. There are 3 bones in the middle ear. They're ossicles. They're called the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup. Now those 3 bones receive vibrations from the eardrum. They translate it to frequencies, which are then transmitted as nerve impulses by the cochlea to the brain. So, anvil, hammer, stir. Well, when I hear those words, I think of blacksmith. You don't really hear an anvil these days. That's okay, a blacksmith. What's a blacksmith doing in my ear? And a stirrup, well, it helps you mount the horse and balance yourself while you're on the horse. It's okay, I get the blacksmith end of it. Well, where's the horse? So, thinking, okay, I'm going to look at the brain. Is there a horse in the brain? And actually, yes, it's the hippocampus. The hippocampus, which means seahorse. And it's a paired structure in the brain, and it has to do with, or it's associated with, emotional responses, balance, memory, learning, spatial awareness. All things that are issues with people who have some sorts of learning disabilities. He says, wow, that's really interesting that there's actually that connection in the names of the words for these parts of our bodies that are connected. That's, I mean, who thinks of this? Who thought of these names for these parts of our bodies? It's really pretty awesome when you think about it. Yeah. And also, a blacksmith works with iron primarily, and metaphysically, iron has to do with human thoughts, and also thoughts of more of a physical nature, of a lower nature, and also the left hemisphere of the brain, which has more to do with just your everyday getting through life, and nothing on the right side, which is more creative and intuitive. So I think when we're dealing with people who have learning disabilities, we have to consider another aspect of why, perhaps, they're having these difficulties. Maybe it's more than just a physical, biological problem. Perhaps it can also be dealt with on a spiritual level. I mean, since there's some reason that there's a connection, such an interesting connection, which I discovered through the dictionary, with between the ear and the brain, just doing searches on the roots of words. I think another word for a blacksmith is a farrier. It comes from the word ferro, which means iron. And your ear is taking the raw data, the iron, and as the alchemists would say, it's transmuting it to a higher level, to gold, hopefully. And somewhere along the line, some people with learning disabilities can't make that jump. But if the ear can be stimulated with certain frequencies, then we can retrain the lazy muscle that supports those bones in the ear to help those bones work as they should, and to help retrain the ear to listen properly, or to get that raw data, to get that iron, and shape and form it properly so that it fits on the horse and it makes the gait smooth over sometimes unsmooth ground. So when we're dealing with people who are just a little bit different or can't perceive things the way we can, let's look inside ourselves and not always consider that there's something wrong with them, but to really look at their soul and realize that there is a way that they can communicate. We just haven't found it yet. We haven't found that right note, that right frequency that's going to resonate with them. Because just like that little girl who came in here, who knew that just would change her day, and change the day for everybody around her. But something simple. It didn't take a pill or years of therapy. Now, I saw her once after that, and I haven't heard from her since, so I really have no idea what the long-term outcome was. But if just a few minutes of hearing a tone could make a difference in her life, then I think that's worth exploring. So let's just hear a few more tones.